Good evening, and welcome to another Thursday evening edition of Ridgecrest Talk. I'm Robert Eierman, along with my partner Al Huey, and we're privileged again, I think for the fourth time, to have Mr. Don Zdeba, General Manager of that's right, of the Indian Wells Valley Water District. In part one, we were talking a lot about the current mandate from the governor, and which turns out for us it's 36%.
On top of the 20%?
On top of what we've already reduced, and that's from June 1st to November 1st?
That they'll be tracking it this year, correct.
Okay. And
that means you can only take a shower on Saturday, brush your teeth once every couple of weeks, wash your clothes once a month.
Preferably in Lancaster.
Yeah.
Take a long vacation out of town.
Yeah. And you were saying, I'm sorry.
That's okay. And we were talking before we went on air about the fact that you were saying that the state is going to be really interested in enforcement of the reduction of water usage.
Right. Last year, as you'll recall, Governor Brown asked for a voluntary 20%, and he fell far short of that. The response was somewhere on the order of 8% statewide. So there was a lot of discussion at the state board level, the fact that they didn't believe that water districts were doing a good enough job of pushing this and enforcing it. So, and this is my personal opinion, I think what's happening this year, I've already been made aware that in addition to reporting monthly, which we were doing last year, the monthly production and the residential gallons per capita per day, they're going to expand that reporting to include your enforcement actions, such things as how many warnings, how many contacts did you make, how many warnings did you issue, how many fines did you issue, how much money did you collect. So again, my sense is, again, my personal thoughts, this 36%, it's going to be challenging to reach that. If we don't reach it, what they're going to be looking at is what were your enforcement actions? Did you make an effort to get to that 36%?
And if we don't prove that, and if we don't attain the 36%, the ultimate penalty to the district could be
a cease and desist order, and in addition to that, fines of $10,000 a day.
Cease and desist in that turn off the water?
Cease and desist in the fact that I guess our district ceases to be the agency providing water. I don't know that that's the case.
Oh, the state would come in and do it.
Possibly, but I can't see that happening.
No, I can't either.
But we have to make.
But like Robert and I said.
Yeah, being one who likes to take things to extremes to see what the end result would be, I think that would be a wonderful situation. We'll just go there and
ask them when they want the combination to the padlocks.
Yeah, and say, okay, state, here you go, you take over. Now, I'm not. This is trying to edit out all the personal trauma that would occur to all the employees of the district, but they would have to have employees anyway. But my point is, when the state makes those kinds of penalties, which, in my opinion, are completely ridiculous and outlandish, that somebody ought to call them on it. Just see what the heck they do. Here you go, you take over. They would certainly see that this district has worked hard to do all those things. And what do they, there isn't any other answer. What could you expect people to do more?
Right. And again, I think that's why what they're looking for in the documentation that we're going to report every month is, are you out there trying to make this work? And if we're doing that and we fall short, I can't help but think that they'll give us recognition for that. Okay. On the other hand, if we are targeted with 36% and we get 3%, and they look at our monthly reports and say, we haven't done anything in terms of educating or enforcing it, then I think we may have a problem. I don't know what that problem will be necessarily, but I anticipate we'll hear from them.
I agree with you. How, again, obviously nothing's been decided, so this is just your personal thoughts at the moment, but how are you going to do this enforcement? You guys have any thoughts about that?
We've actually taken the first step. We anticipate there's going to be a learning curve, obviously. We're trying to get out the word as best we can on this by sending a mailer out to all our customers. We've
Been in the paper,
We've
you're
been
on
in the
here.
paper, we're appearing here, we've started a Facebook page, we've started a Twitter account, getting word out any way we can. But recognizing that we've actually shifted some responsibilities within our staffing. We've taken one of our field service people and moved him into a more conservation mode to where he can be out in the community looking around, seeing, you know, are people watering outside the hours. And again, the approach we prefer and which we want to do is education, because we want to believe that people, if they're not complying, it's because they don't know it. So as far as enforcement, in the ordinance, the first is a contact to the person. Just approaching them and saying, hey, did you realize that you can't water on this day, that your schedule is an even schedule? Whatever that violation may be, excessive runoff, whatever. Second such violation, we would send them a formal letter and just say, hey, this is the ordinance, these are the things that we need you to do. If it goes to a third violation, then we are allowed to add up to a $50 fine on the water bill. A fourth violation would be up to $200 fine on the water bill, and that's in the ordinance. If it continues, a fifth violation, with no attempt to try and resolve it, then we start the process of a 10-day notice of shut off service, then a 48-hour notice, and then service is terminated. You know, we hope nobody goes to that extreme.
Right.
Again, I think people in this community want to do the right thing, and if they know what the situation is and have all the facts, they'll comply. And I think I mentioned before when I was on last summer when we started this, we sent out a number of letters and made personal contacts, and we only had to send out a second letter with a threat to fine people one time, and they complied. So I'm hopeful, and I anticipate that people will do what.
Do you think people, given the situation, like they're going to be gone for 2 weeks or a month, they should notify the water district so that if a sprinkler head were to get busted off and you got water spraying all over the place, the water district could go over and maybe attend to that? Or
We could sure do that. As I said, we're trying to shift our staff a little bit to be more customer oriented for this. We anticipate will be a lot of work this summer, and we're actually bringing out a temporary meter reader to help us be able to move some of these responsibilities to our more experienced people. So that's another expense, if you we're incurring, just temporarily bringing on this meter reader.
Just hold that thought. We got to go to a break here. So please join us after the break. We'll have more discussion on water.
Welcome back to Ridgecrest Talk. Again, I'm Al Huey, along with my partner Robert Eierman. We're talking with Mr. Zdeba from the Water District, and we're talking about how you're going to be able to manage the enforcement of this 36% reduction that we're supposed to meet.
We're also
And you were saying who you're going to...
well, in addition to shifting some of the responsibilities within our staffing, we're obviously in the off hours there's opportunities for looking for runoff and that sort of thing. So we figure the Ridgecrest police are out there at night, and maybe there's an opportunity to partner with them where they could report things that they see to us and we can act on it from there. We are getting a lot of community feedback. We're getting people
Neighbors reporting on
using
neighbors.
our water waster feature on our website. We've actually had a report or two on Facebook. They've sent us a picture. And it was actually good. I mean, there was a sprinkler broken at Supervisor Gleason's landscaping, and they took a picture of it across from the post office, sent it to us on Facebook. I contacted their maintenance person, and they addressed it right away. And those things happen. I mean, it's
Sure,
I'm
yeah.
not, trying to make them look bad. It's just I've had a sprinkler break too, and I had my neighbor tell me a couple days later I didn't know it was broken.
Right.
Yeah.
I've had the
So,
same thing.
Me too.
And when we became aware of that, we do have the little red flags that we'll go out and we'll put there. So if people are gone during the day and they come back from work, they see that red flag and they know there's a broken sprinkler and they can attend to it. So we're trying to help as much as we can, and that's our intent. We don't want to penalize people. We want to help people. We want to educate people. And I mentioned during the break, we are moving forward with a pilot test of automated metering infrastructure system, which is basically smart meters. As I mentioned earlier, we're doing right now just walking routes. And when we do that, we've had people, we used to have the Firefly system, which we could print a report for people. It would show their hourly water use. And it was very helpful to
I
people.
thought the district already had kind of a smart meter.
We had the what was called the Firefly system. They went, Datamatic went bankrupt. Their service the last few years wasn't very good. We ended up pulling all those out, and we went back to manual reading for accuracy reasons.
Okay.
It just wasn't working very well, and they weren't following up with the warranty repairs. So right now we're walking, which gives us a disadvantage in that we don't have the data, we don't have the ability or a tool to look at water use for individual customers when they request it. This pilot test is going back to a smart meter type of system. We'll have collectors in the 5 collector sites is what's being proposed in the valley, sending to a central collector at the district yard. And then customers would be able to pull up and look at their individual water use, see how they're doing and react accordingly. And also the district can run reports on demand. We can also run reports in the morning and see if there's anything unusual, notify customers with a text message or an email or a phone call, whatever they prefer. So it's a really good system, and especially with conservation being emphasized as much as it is now and going forward, I'm sure it will be even more so.
With the state regulations being softened regarding gray water or purple pipe, whatever you want to call it, could the district reach out in that way to homeowners that want to, say, reuse their washer and shower or something like that, that they could repipe that?
We actually, the Indian Wells Valley Cooperative Groundwater Management Group meeting, was it last week? Lauren Culp, the city engineer, gave a presentation on gray water, and I thought it was a good presentation. It gave people some resources to where they can investigate if they want to purchase a gray water system. I had one person that attended that meeting approach me earlier in the week and said they've already ordered a system they're going to put in to use the gray water from their washing machine to irrigate their yard.
Okay.
So, you just need to, as Lauren said during that meeting, you need to make sure and contact the city before you do something on your own. Do the research, contact the city, make sure what you're doing meets city code.
Right.
So there definitely are opportunities there, and you know, there's some.
So this would strictly be on the city then? The water district couldn't
on the
get
city
involved?
pretty much, yeah, yeah. But crises create opportunities, is what they say. So I'm sure there's going to be a lot of opportunities for people to innovate and come up with new technologies and new ways to solve this. So.
Yeah.
Speaking, let me address one thing that
Sure.
is kind of like the 800-pound gorilla in the room, and that is that earlier this week on Monday, we became aware of the appellate court decision down in Orange County, which that decision supported the lawsuit and the decision that had previously been made saying that tiered rates based upon conservation were unconstitutional, that any rate tiering must be cost driven. In other words, the district has to say it costs us more, therefore we're passing that on, and therefore we have a higher tier for those for the additional water usage.
Right.
What impact's that going to have here on this district?
I don't think it'll have any impact, Robert. In talking with our Bartle Wells Associates, did our cost of service study, and they've done our cost of service studies for the district for the last several years. They did the most recent study in 2014. They were aware of this litigation and anticipated the outcome. And the tiered structure, the 4-tiered structure that was implemented April 1st is based on usage and factoring in, there's a peak factor for each classification of use, residential by each meter. The details, if you wish, it's kind of, there's a lot that goes into it, but the cost of service study itself is on our website. You can pull it up, and I believe it's page 22 and 23 explains how that's figured in. So I'm confident that our district is basing is using the actual cost of service for those tiers, as opposed to, I think, what the litigation was saying is just putting arbitrary numbers in or arbitrary rates
Yes.
to
that's
help with conservation. So
That-
ours are based on actual cost of service. So I'm confident that we're okay in that regard.
Okay, and because if, excuse me, it is up to the water district to prove that those rates are
It is.
based upon
It is.
Cost of the water.
cost.
Actual cost of service.
Right.
Correct.
And as long as, they didn't say that tiered rates were illegal, what they said
Right.
was tiered rates just by arbitrarily picking a number, just by looking at conservation, that was unconstitutional.
Right,
But
there's-
if it's based upon cost and is substantiated, then there's not a problem.
There's one district I saw that in the higher tier just put a $9 per unit cost for conservation, and that wasn't based on anything other than just trying to penalize people for using more water. And that's
We're
not
gonna
the
have
case.
to, we're gonna have to stop right there. We'll be back here. Please join us after the break.
Stay tuned. Welcome back. Final segment here of part 2 interview with Mr. Zdeba from the Water District, and we're talking about water. All right. While we were on break, we were talking about the Palmdale decision,
2011, appellate
2011,
level.
that said you couldn't charge different people, different types of users, different rates.
Right.
And we were wondering if what the water district does with a 5/8 meter compared to a 3/4 inch meter, how that might conflict with that litigation.
I don't know the details of that litigation, but I know the rates for the water district have, to my knowledge, been always based on the capacity of the meter. For example, an 8-inch meter has more capacity than a 3/4 inch meter, so they pay more for that meter.
They put more for the meter.
Right.
But we're talking about per unit of water.
Yeah, because I thought there were, in the discussions at the board meeting, 5/8 people, 5/8 inch meters were going to pay less than 3/4 inch.
Well, that was the other way around, but anyway.
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
For the meter, 5/8 inch meter.
No,
there-
monthly water charge. Remember when Mr. Porter got up and spoke about how if you used more water and with a 5/8 inch metering system, it was cheaper?
Right. And that's true for all meter sizes, that there's a different rate for each meter size.
And that wouldn't, you don't think, conflict with that?
I'm not familiar with that.
Okay. Maybe it'd be a good idea to have the attorney look at that and
Yeah.
see, to avoid getting into any kind of litigation that the water district doesn't need to spend money on right now.
Our consultant that does the water rates is familiar with most of the legal.
Okay, well, maybe
So
Yeah, maybe
but it's a
they-
good question. It's something
maybe
I
we're
can
looking
follow
at
up
it the
on.
wrong way.
Yeah.
Something I can follow up on.
The,
But-
go
go
ahead.
ahead.
Well, we were just wanting to, in this final segment, address the fact that, okay, let's just say that, wow, everybody responds marvelously and we meet our 36% goal. The downside of that is that means that the water district takes in 36% less revenue. And that's a serious hit for any organization.
Yeah, any kind of significant decline like that is something we're concerned about. When we did our budget for this coming fiscal year, beginning July 1st, of course, we didn't know all this was going to come down, but we
course
did,
not.
we did factor in a 10% conservation figure. So that 10% is accounted for in the budget. You know, the reality is that we had $26 million worth of projects over the next 10 years. And one place, obviously, to compensate for any reduction in revenue is to put off some of those projects. There's a tank on the east side of town that's being proposed. It's, what, $3 million, $3.5 million. Perhaps we delay that. Some things we can't delay. You know, we have a replacement well in there as a placeholder. Obviously, if we lose a well, we can't just go without that well. So
Right.
No, that's pretty tough.
some things you can't delay. There are some things that we can delay. So, you know,
And-
we'll look seriously at the projects that we have in the 10-year capital plan. And
The employees of the water district, there won't be a Christmas party this year.
there wasn't one last year either, so you know.
And I know on break we were talking about the fact that, well, the governor said, oh, well, this is a simple solution. We'll simply increase the cost of water, and that will make up the monetary difference for these water districts. However, we just had that ruling that really steps in the way of that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, didn't the governor respond to that?
Yeah, he said
decision?
it was like placing the water districts or the state in a straitjacket.
Straitjacket, yes. And it really, in a sense, does. I mean, as you said, one of the considerations from the Water Board when the executive order was issued April 1st was recognizing that 35% at the time was the high, and that's going to definitely affect revenues for water districts. So how do we handle that? And the Water Board had said, we'll come up with some sort of a tiered structure we can give to water districts, and they can use this to compensate. And as you just alluded to, that appellate court decision has
really
put a skid to that for the time being. So.
And I should point out, this is all relative to Prop 218, which was a voter initiative done, I believe, in '96. But it was the people of the state getting together, putting forth an initiative to stop governments from just raising rates whenever they felt like it. And it was passed quite significantly by the voters. So it isn't like this is a willy-nilly thing. This was the people of the state placing into the Constitution limits on this kind of thing. So it was a good idea. I still think it's a good idea. It's just that it really is going to hamstring this process.
It is, and as you are probably aware, because I know you're following water issues, every day something is evolving in this something new. So these are exciting times to be in the water industry.
Yeah, right.
For lack of a better term.
Right. Yeah.
I think they're more exciting for those outside of the, like you pointed out, boy, you came in at the wrong time.
Or the right time.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, that's right.
mean,
everybody loves a challenge, right?
Well, you got one.
Yeah.
Definitely.
All right, well, I want to remind our listeners that coming up this next month, we have an important meeting yet on the land use plan by the county.
Yes.
Our county supervisors will meet here in Ridgecrest. One of 3 meetings they will hold on this. They're going to have one
April
prior
28th.
on the
April
9th.
28th.
Oh, April 28th.
And at that point, I don't know if a presentation will be made, but it's going to be recommended that they not postpone, that's not the right word, whatever the word is, to delay action on this until they can meet in Ridgecrest on May 13th, 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
Have another meeting on the 18th and 19th.
And they will take public
Back in
input at that
Bakersfield.
time. And then, and then they'll take it back to Bakersfield and actually have the vote, I believe, on the 19th.
So anyway, if no matter where you are, pro or con on this, the last time to be heard on this will be May 13th at 1 o'clock in City Council chambers. I'm sure you're going to be there.
Absolutely.
And we will
be there.
And you need to be there.
Yeah, you need to have your voice heard, like Al said. Whichever side you're on, you should voice your input so that they can make their decision based on as much input as they can possibly have.
And we might add, we bumped into Supervisor McGleason yesterday at this presentation by the Secretary of the Navy, or Assistant Secretary of the Navy. And he says the plan is still evolving. The last changes will be done May 7th.
May 7th, I think he said it would be out. So it's whatever you think you knew is wrong now.
Right.
It's changing again. And which is not necessarily a bad thing. Don't take that wrong. They certainly are responding to public input.
Right.
I think it makes it difficult to know how to think about it because it just keeps evolving, and I'm not sure that the evolutions that have occurred, maybe we should have started over, but there's reasons we can't do that, and et cetera, et cetera. But anyway.
Well, thanks again for being with us.
Thank you for
inviting me. We will have you back again, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm certain. Thanks.
Join us again, folks, next time.
Night.